yours with Dior Palettes. La, 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 la. What's up, friends? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are doing well. Christmas has come early again in October, and we've got tons of holiday goodness to talk about in this video. I'm going to be reviewing for you the new hot off the presses Dior Holiday 2022 eyeshadow Quints. We're doing a full review as usual today. I'm going to be doing some daylight swatches, tons of applications showing you guys how to get some beautiful, soft, wearable holiday looks. So if you're interested in all of that, all of my thoughts, if these palettes are worth it, then keep watching. And if this happens to be your first time here, then welcome, welcome. My name is Sophia, and this is my channel where we talk about all things beauty and luxury. Every single week, I upload new videos on all of the newest beauty releases out on the market. So if you love makeup, if you love luxury beauty, luxury fashion, anything like that, then you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button to join our fam because we have so much fun over here on this channel. And if you like the content, you can also hit that notification bell to hear about every time I upload a new video. If you like this video, please don't forget to give me a big thumbs up. It really helps me out, and I will be linking everything that I mentioned in this video, anything that I'm wearing today, anything on my face, in the description box down below. Most of my links are affiliate links, so if you like my content, shopping through those links is a really great way to support my channel. Okay, party people, let's get into this review. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today because we have not one, but two eyeshadow Quints to review for you all today. Now, these Quints are a part of the Holiday 2022 collection. There are some other items in this collection. I'm not going to be picking any of those up, but they are really beautiful. There are some gorgeous blushes, some nail lacquers, some lip sets. There's some really beautiful face palettes. So I will link down below where you can shop all of these products. Really beautiful collection this year, but in this video, we're just going to be covering the two eyeshadow Quints, which I think are the items that you guys are the most excited about. So what do we have here? So first up, we have this palette, which is called Cosmic Eyes. This is described as a mixture of gold and bronze hues. And then we have Galactic, which is described as a cool harmony of silver and pink shades. This collection is inspired by the starry night sky, which is evident in a lot of the packaging and also the beautiful product embossing, which you're going to see in just a second. Side note, this seems to be a really popular theme with a lot of luxury collections, just kind of like space, starry, celestial sort of theme. I noticed Chanel is doing something similar, Guerlain is doing something very similar, and NARS is also doing something very similar. So comment down below if you noticed that as well. I noticed that a lot of brands are doing this kind of like star themed. I don't know if they're all working together, but I'm here for it. I like it. I think it's good for holiday. I'm going to start off with the review of Cosmic Eyes, and then we're going to talk about Galactic, and then at the end, I'm going to sum up all of my thoughts. So let's get started with Cosmic Eyes. Let me show you guys some close-ups and swatches of this palette. This is described on the Dior website as a satiny heart, shades of metallic bronze, a shimmering gold, and a velvety black tinged with gold. So in this one, we're getting 4 of those kind of classic Dior satin types of shades, and then we have one matte black that has just a little bit of gold sparkle. I'll talk a little bit more about how this applies in a second. My initial impressions of this color story is that I definitely thought it was going to be a little more like khaki and taupey. This is very much like a classic gold glam type of palette. I want to show you guys the look that I did with this. I tried to do kind of like a subtle glam. I know that a lot of you like to see sort of more wearable looks, and with these holiday palettes, I definitely think that you can do both soft day types of looks, but then I also think you can kind of glam it up for night. So let me show you the look that I did with Cosmic Eyes. First, I took the medium gold shade and I just brushed that all over the lid, mostly on the outer half, just to kind of start building the look. This is a really beautiful gold. If you're somebody that loves kind of these glamorous gold types of tones, I think you're really gonna like it. And the finish is very much like other good quality satin Dior shades with maybe just a little bit more of like a metallic reflect. Then I went in with the brighter gold. I would say this is more of like a truer yellow gold. It's very nice and soft, and I went in on the inner half of the lid. Then I dipped into the center shade. This is that beautiful kind of shimmery nude champagne sort of shade, and I put that along the inner corner. I also put that along the lower lash line. I think one way to make this really nice and wearable is to kind of just keep that lower lash line really bright. So I do recommend going in with either this shade, the one in the center, or that brighter, lighter type of gold, and using that for the lower lash line. If you want something that's just a little more daytime, or you want to sort of open up the eyes a little bit more, because I know with these types of palettes, especially if you're pale like me, it can get very smoky very quickly. Then with a fluffy brush, I went in with this taupey, almost grayish type of color in the outer corner, and I blended it out for a really soft effect with a little bit of depth. And I honestly think that you could stop here if you wanted something that was a little bit softer and a little bit more wearable. So this is really where you could stop. You could just use the lighter tones. Next, we're gonna go in with the black, and I'm gonna show you guys how I added up a little bit more depth for a little bit more glam. And that is exactly what I did. I dipped into the matte black, but this time with kind of a softer brush because I wanted more of like a sultry type of glam look, something a little bit softer. And I went in, I blended that all out. Finally, I popped on some liquid eyeliner. Once again, I kept it to the upper lash line, some mascara, and this is the final look. Comment down below and let me know what you think of this. I thought that this looked very classic. It looked very holiday, perfect for kind of like the fall and winter season. I must say that I don't think that these shadows come across super glittery, if that is something that you were worried about. The satin shades are very much similar to other Dior satins you might be experienced with in other palettes. If especially you like something just a little bit more metallic, maybe you have the soft cashmere palette. I know that's kind of like a favorite in the beauty community. I would say it's kind of similar to the shimmers in that one. And then the matte black, I also have to say, when I blended this on the lid, I really don't see the tiny little micro glitters that you see in the pan. The micro glitters are kind of cool for the visual effect because it does look like a beautiful starry night sky. Like, I understand the vision that they had going for there, but when you actually put it on the eye, I really don't see the glitter. I don't get any fallout from those glitters. I don't know if you guys are familiar with ColourPop palettes. I know we're kind of going on like the other side of the spectrum, something more affordable, but they do this all the time. They have those annoying matte shades with the little glitter particles, and I'm like, why? We didn't need this. And I kind of feel the same about that shade. To my preference, when I put it on the eye, I really don't notice those glitter particles. So I want to mention that in case that was something you were worried about, or if that was something that you thought made this palette super unique. Unfortunately, you really just like don't get much of a gold effect from those little micro glitters. By the way, for all of the looks in this video, I am using Dior lip products, and I do have reviews of these products on my channel, so I'm going to link all of those down below. If you're curious about any of the other products that I have on my face, the Dior lip products, the bronzer, anything like that, I will have them all linked down below. I am going to be doing some comparisons with Cosmic Eyes, don't you worry, but first I need to show you these swatches and the look that I did with this palette, which is called Galactic. So let's take a look at some swatches and close-ups of this. This is described as having a pearly white, a rosewood, a metallic silver, a purple with flashes of gold, and a velvet black tinged with silver. So similar to how Cosmic Eyes had that black matte and it had little gold micro glitters in it, this one, Galactic, has the same exact thing, except it's little silver micro glitters. So they're basically the same shade once it goes onto the eye, so I just want to mention that. Also, when I saw the promo photos for these, it kind of looked like, you know, maybe this was a navy, but it is in fact a matte black. They also described this as a purple. I would describe this more like a maroon. So we've got like a maroon, a rosewood, this steely, some of you have been calling it blue. I would say it's kind of a steely blue, almost like a cross between a blue and a silver, and then the pearly white, and then we have the matte black. Now that I see this palette in person, it's definitely more unique than I thought it was going to be. The first thing that I noticed when I looked at it is that you definitely can, in addition to using all of the colors, which I'll show you how I did it in just a second, you definitely have like one look right here, which could be softer and more, I guess, more of like that rosy toned sort of vibe. And then you also could have this look right here. So for somebody that only uses 1, 2, maybe 3 shades, you could kind of think of the palette in that way. You also could get the softest look with this right here. Actually, before I go into the demo, I want to show you guys a quick clip of a softer, more wearable look that I did with this palette yesterday. The look that I'm going to show you in the demo is going to be this one that I have on my eyes today, which is just a little bit more glam. But I wanted to show you this softer one so you could see what does it look like when you do not use the black shade in this palette. You can get a softer look. Two of the things that I learned that I wanted to mention as I was kind of playing around with this in the beginning is, number one, this maroon shade, it doesn't show up very maroony on the eye when you are layering it over the steely silvery blue type of color. I went in with a very fluffy brush on that very soft look, and I kind of just dusted it, and it looks beautiful. Like, it adds some nice depth, but it's not going to look like you have maroon shadow on your eyes. So I do want to mention that. You're going to see what it looks like when I build it up in the demo. The second thing that I want to mention is that the pearly white, this is definitely, it's very soft. With these types of shades, I like something that's blindingly pearly and really, really bright. And I think what I realized is that this is very much like, this is Dior. This is a Dior shadow. It's not going to be like one of those Pat McGrath, like skin show glow type of shades. It's not a Natasha Denona sort of formula. This is very soft, ethereal, and pearly. And so if you want to build it up, the best way to build that shade up is with like a little flat synthetic brush, something that's really gonna lay it onto the eye, or using your finger. I really like the way that this soft look came out in the end, but I think there was a little bit of a learning curve with how to use some of these colors, because this palette, it is a little more unique. It's a little bit less user-friendly than Cosmic Eyes. So I just want to mention that if you're looking to get more color payoff off of these two shades, you're going to want to use denser brushes, and especially with the pearly white, I would use kind of like a synthetic brush that is better for like metallics. So let's get into the demo so I can show you guys how I got this look that I'm wearing today. First up, I went in with that beautiful steely silvery blue color. This is really the standout color in the palette, and I think a lot of you guys agree, just kind of DMing me on Instagram. A lot of you are drawn to that beautiful color, and I must say it is really pretty, and you can clearly see here in the daylight application, it has a beautiful metallic look. I think this is going to be a really good color that's going to be flattering on pretty much every skin tone. Then I dipped into the rosewood shade, and I just kind of painted that on the inner half. I will say, if you're not careful about being precise about where you're placing this color, if you're using it in conjunction with that steely blue, it might get a little bit lost. So when you're applying these, try and make sure that you have very distinct sections where you're applying them. I think as soon as you start layering these colors on this side of the palette with these two colors on this side of the palette, you kind of lose these tones. So that would be my suggestion to you from an application perspective. And I think that that kind of always goes for colors that are more like a little bit more opposite on the color wheel. I also put that rosewood shade along the lower lash line just to kind of start building up the look in a very soft way. Then I went into the burgundy shade, and this time around I went in with a very dense brush just to kind of really pack it on, and you will notice instantly I'm getting more depth. I'm getting more depth, but at the same time, it doesn't show up super burgundy because we're layering it on top of that blue. I still think it looks really pretty, but it's something that I want to point out. If you're using these shades and you're trying to get a certain look, when you layer them on top, you might get a slightly different tone. Lastly, for this look, because I wanted it to be a little bit more glam, I dipped into that black shade with a pointy brush and just tried to build up a little bit more depth in the outer V. To finish up the look, I dipped into that white pearly shade in the center, and this time around, as I mentioned, I used a flat synthetic brush. I felt like this laid down the color a lot more. I put it in the inner corner, and then I also just kind of melted it onto the center of the lid for a nice little pop of sheen. Finally, I put on some eyeliner and some mascara, and this is the final look. Comment down below, let me know what you thought of this. Do you think I used each of the colors in the best way possible? Do you prefer this glam look, or do you prefer the softer look? I'd be curious to hear how you guys expect to use this palette. To me, because these are holiday palettes, I instantly think of, you know, using all of the colors and going a little bit more glam, but I actually really like the softer look that I created yesterday. You know, we got to get into some comparisons, so that's what we're going to do next. The first thing that I want to mention is that unfortunately, I do not have any of the Dior Holiday palettes from previous years. That was before I was a YouTuber, and so I just haven't collected a lot of these limited edition palettes, but I will put up a couple of images right here on the screen just to kind of show you guys. It seems like while these palettes, they're not super similar to a lot of the permanent Dior collection palettes, they have released some pretty similar palettes in the past. So I want you guys to keep in mind that if you have palettes from last year, you probably have some similar tones in your collection. And I'm hoping that these other comparisons that I do for you all help you realize kind of the differences between the tones, if this is something you already have. And also comment down below if you have some of these holiday palettes from past years. I would love to hear from you all. If they are similar, let's help each other out in that comment section. First, I'm going to do some comparisons with Cosmic Eyes. The first one that I want to do for you all is with the Dior Quint that is called Grand Bal. This is the one that I instantly thought of because it kind of has very much that kind of gold, glamorous type of vibe. It's got the dark matte. I would say the biggest difference here is that Grand Bal, it's less pigmented, more glittery. Like this new one, Cosmic Eyes, it has more of that sheeny metallic type of finish, whereas Grand Bal kind of has like a soft glittery type of effect. But the matte black that is in Grand Bal, I think that is actually a better matte than the one in here. That one just feels more pigmented. It's a little bit smoother. I wouldn't say that the matte in this one is bad. I'm just saying if you're someone where that black shade and having a really good black matte for building up depth and smoke is important to you, I think that that probably is the better Quint. Next, I have a comparison with Tom Ford's Nude Dip. This is one that you guys requested. Here you will notice that Nude Dip, it's not super golden in nature. It's called Nude Dip. So it's very much kind of like a neutral, almost cool tone type of nudie gold type of palette. So if you want something that is just more explicitly gold, then Cosmic Eyes is going to be better. Speaking of gold, on the other side of the spectrum, we have Tom Ford's Suspicion palette. This one is much warmer. So I would say we have Nude Dip that's more on like the cooler side of the scale. We have Cosmic Eyes, which is in between, more neutral. And then on the warmer side, we have this one, Suspicion. You guys also requested a comparison with the new Guerlain Royal Jungle Quad. I think similar to Suspicion, this one is much warmer. I also think that this one is much more browny in tone. Next up, I have the Chanel Tweed 01 palette. This is actually similar to Royal Jungle. This is warmer and browner. I don't think they're that similar. I think this shows that Cosmic Eyes, it's a really good neutral glam palette as opposed to these which are more on the warmer side. I felt like I was gonna get requests for this, so I also compared this up against Chanel Tweed 04 Brunet Rose. This one is actually closer to Tom Ford Nude Dip, so it's kind of the same situation. It's more of like that nude, slightly, neutral to cool toned kind of color story. When I first saw Cosmic Eyes, I first thought of Grand Bal, but there was something that I just knew I wasn't remembering that was really similar to this, but I figured it out. It's this little Petite Four from Viseart. This is from their holiday collection. I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, and this is called Bouillon. This is a very similar color story. Now, the Viseart formula is much more pigmented, more extreme, more metallic. Not all of the shades are a complete dupe, but I do think that this is a good affordable alternative if you're like, you know what, I want a little taste of this color story. Maybe this is a little too expensive for you. The one from Viseart is still available and it's about half the price. The last one that I dug up here is actually from Pat McGrath. This is an older palette, but she recently re-released it. So if it's still available on her site, I will link it down below, but I'm pretty sure a bunch of you guys have this palette. This is the Pat McGrath Subliminal Platinum Bronze palette. I thought that these looked pretty similar. When I swatched them, I would say the Pat palette, it's a little bit cooler in tone. And the biggest thing is that in her palette, there isn't one shade that is like a true gold, which is kind of surprising because Mother Pat loves gold. But in this palette, she was kind of going for like a platinum, cooler tone type of color story, so they are a little bit different. Now let's look at the Galactic palette. I actually had fewer comparisons for this one, so I have just a couple to show you all. The first one that I want to show you all is with Dior Soft Cashmere. Soft Cashmere, when swatched, definitely has that kind of silky, silvery sort of nature here, but when you put these side by side, it actually looks way more brown tone. Like, I always think that it's going to be more gray and silver, and then when I sort of compare it up against something like this, it just looks way more brown. Next up, we have Imperial Moon by Guerlain. This is another one of their new quad palettes. I think that these have very similar vibes. The biggest difference here is that you aren't getting kind of that deeper burgundy shade to build up some depth. You're just getting a black, and then you also don't get that kind of bluey nature that you get from the steel blue in Galactic. So I think that Imperial Moon, it has a similar vibe, but it's a little more basic. It's a little more classic, whereas I think Galactic, there's something a little bit more interesting about it because these shades and the combination of these shades, I just think it's a little bit more unique. Finally, I have a limited edition palette from Tom Ford. This is Soleil Neige. I think this was launched maybe 3 years ago. I know this was a very popular collection, so I wanted to show it. And I think this palette, it's just darker. It also is more glittery. Like, there really are no true mattes. This is the Tom Ford Wet Dry formula. So every single shade is gonna have a sheen. And also all of the shades in this limited edition palette have kind of like an interesting glittery finish to them as well. Finally, I went into my collection and grabbed the Natasha Denona Glam palette, and I wanna show you all a side-by-side of all three of these palettes because Once again, like the Natasha Denona Glam palette, I feel like it pops up in so many of my videos because it's such a good basic palette. I know that not everybody wants this many shades. When you look at the comparison with Cosmic Eyes, what you'll notice is that you can pretty much dupe this palette with the Glam palette. When you look at the swatches for Galactic, however, some of them come close, but in the Glam palette, like you really don't have, once again, the sort of steely blue color. And then these two shades are kind of hard to dupe in that as well. You're not getting like that maroon burgundy, but I still want to show it to you all as well. There are a lot of similarities with the Glam palette. So if you have that palette, you might not need to pick these up, but if you were looking for something that was a similar vibe and you like smaller palettes, then these might be a good option for you this holiday season. Yo, you thought we were done with this collection, but guess what just showed up at my door? The new Pat McGrath 5-pan palettes. So I'm just gonna show you guys if these are similar at all. First off, this is a sneak peek to my next review. This is the Nude Allure palette. I wanna show you guys right off the bat. This is very pinky, so we're not gonna do a comparison. It's very different, but the other palette, this one is called Bronze Bliss. I'm gonna do a quick little swatcheroo for you guys with this palette and show you guys if there's any similarities. I will insert a side-by-side here of Cosmic Eyes versus Bronze Bliss so that you guys can kind of see the tones. There are some similar tones here, so I definitely wanted to compare these two. And then here are the swatches. The biggest thing that I noticed is that the Pat McGrath palette is so extremely foily. It is super duper foily, and there really is only one matte, which is that matte black shade. So if you're looking for something that is like unbelievably blindingly sparkly and shimmery, then I would go for the Pat McGrath. But I actually do think that these two color stories look quite similar. I'm going to be doing a fully dedicated review of these palettes, so if you guys want more comparisons with these and you want a little bit more thoughts on the formula to kind of inform your purchasing decisions, because I know that all these are very expensive, then keep a lookout on my channel because that review is going to be coming very, very soon. All right, friends, I hope that all of this has been helpful so far. Now it is time for my final thoughts. I want to sum up what I think of these palettes, if I think they're worth it, who do I think they're for, and also which one do I like better. So let's start off with the good. What are the things that I really enjoy about these palettes? In general, I'm a fan of the Dior formula, and I don't think that these disappoint. I like that the colors are really beautiful and shimmery and metallic, especially these golds here at the top, and then this gorgeous steely blue as well. You guys saw from the demo, it's just beautifully metallic, and I think that that also is a really special shade. I think that these color stories are really pretty. I think they're very classic and giftable, good for holiday. I love the fact that even though there's glitter in these matte shades, it doesn't really show up on the lid and I don't get any fallout from that glitter. I think it's just kind of like a fun visual effect. It really just kind of immerses me in the palette. I'm looking at it and it looks like a beautiful night sky. I love the embossing. It doesn't last very long, like you guys can see. It's already starting to fade, especially on some of these shades that I've really like dug into, but I still think it's pretty. Like even though it fades, I look at it and I still kind of get the same vibe. In general, I think that these are good palettes. I don't think that you're going to be disappointed in them. If you're somebody that likes the Dior formula, the things that I think are considerations are that, you know, for something that's a more glamorous palette, you have to keep in mind that some of these matte shades, it's the Dior formula. It's not going to be something that you're like really packing on, like a Pat McGrath matte or like even a Viseart matte, Natasha Denona, any of those types of brands. You're gonna get a little bit more pigment from that. And so I think you need to keep that in mind and think about what types of looks are you going for with these? Because if you're going for super full glam, I wanna like really smoke it out, then I would probably go with some of those other brands. Like I mentioned, this palette, once you start layering this shade on top of the blue, you kind of lose the maroon nature of it. You need to be a little bit careful with how you layer those shades. Cosmic Eyes is a little more user-friendly because more or less all of the shades are in the same color family. So that's the first consideration I would have, is like, because it is the Dior formula, these deeper shades, they're going to pull a little bit softer. The second thing you really, really need to keep in mind, and this is the biggest one, is that these color stories, they're nice, they're classic and they're beautiful and they're giftable, but these aren't revolutionary, especially Cosmic Eyes. you guys saw, you can literally dupe this palette with the Natasha Denona Glam palette, and I had a lot of other palettes in my collection that were very similar. I think this one, I don't want to call it a disappointment because like I'm glad I have this one in my collection because I do think it's really beautiful, and I don't really have any other Dior palettes that are exactly like this. I like this more than Grand Bal because I like the more pigmented metallic nature of these. So I'm not mad that I have it, but I was kind of hoping that it was a little more unique. I was hoping it was a little more like taupey or khaki, but that's just me. That's just kind of based off what I have in my collection. This one is a little bit more unique, but still, if you have other kind of smoky palettes in your collection, if you got the palettes from the past previous years, then you probably already have some color stories that are very similar to this. So I do think you need to kind of go through your collection and ask yourself, what kind of looks are you going to be using these palettes for? To me, these are really beautiful autumnal, wintertime, soft glam palettes, because if you're buying a Quint and you're not going to use the black shades, then that's like 1 shade out of 5 that you're not gonna use. So there's plenty of other beautiful Dior palettes out there that don't have like dark mattes or don't have a black shade that you can choose from that might be better. I would recommend, you know, maybe soft cashmere on the cool tone side, or Mitza if you're looking for something more on like the warm tone side. But I think that you need to ask yourself, like, what are you gonna be using this for? Because otherwise, half of the shades in the palette just kind of become sort of pointless. If you are completely set on getting one of these and you're trying to decide which one should you get, this is how I would think of it. Cosmic Eyes, this is if you want something that's gold, and this is safer. Like, this is a safer bet. It's more user-friendly. It's more classic. If you're gonna gift one of these to somebody, I think you should gift Cosmic Eyes. Galactic, on the other hand, is gonna be for those who want something that is more silver. If you want something that gives you more looks because you just have more tones here. And also, this one is more unique. Which one is my favorite? Galactic is. This one is my pick if you're gonna go between the two of them because it is more unique. And I think so many of you have this. I definitely thought Cosmic Eyes was going to be my favorite, but I'm very pleasantly surprised. I really like this one. I like the soft look that I did. I like the glam look that I did, and I don't have as many palettes like this in my collection. But enough about what I think. It's now your turn to tell me what you think. Sound off in the comments down below and let me know what you thought of this review. Was it helpful? Did any of you pick these up? I know a lot of you already ordered these, but then a lot of you are also just trying to decide if it is worth it. So I would love to hear all of your thoughts, and if you like this video, please don't forget to give your girl here a big thumbs up. If you would like to shop or support my channel, I will be linking all of the products that I mentioned and links to shop the Dior Holiday collection in the description box down below. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel and if you like Dior, then what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button to join our fam. And if you're not sure, head on over to my channel page, watch a couple other videos. We can become friends, get to know each other, and maybe then you will subscribe. So with that, I hope that you guys are having a fantastic day, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye.